Hello, Internet, and welcome to another edition of Free to Play Police. I'm Mike Byrne, aka Magic Man from MMOBomb.com. Also on the line, Mr. Jason Winter from MMOBomb. And, well, you know what? I think I'm just going to defer to you on this one a lot, Jason, because apparently, from what I hear through the grapevine, ArenaNet / Guild Wars 2 could be facing a jail sentence here from the Free to Play Police. But as just the occasional Guild Wars 2 dabbler, maybe I don't see the extreme situation that might have been caused for some of the more hardcore Guild Wars 2 fans. So what's going on? What are the charges?
Well, maybe you ought to look on the forums where this thread is up to 30 pages that was started on Friday. Yeah, and I hear there's a lot more going on Reddit. I haven't even looked at that yet. But anyway, so on Friday, ArenaNet president / game director Mike O'Brien posted that, we're going to put out a new legendary weapon. We're going to have the new collection, everything needed for that, which they've been doing. They did 3 of them about a month after Heart of Thorns launched back in November. The expansion launched in October. 3 new legendaries came out in November. They said we're going to have a full set of 18 legendaries, which cover all the basic weapons in the game.
Now, I kind of remember this in the expansion advertising.
Yes, it was a big deal, something they put in there when they were talking about bringing out Heart of Thorns. Going to be a big new deal they're going to do with legendary weapons. So we're going to have all 18 of them. And they even said, it's going to take us about a month. In the blog post, they said it takes about a month to get a full legendary done. A week for this part, a week for that part, and so on. So, they did 3 right after the expansion came out, along with a bunch of the new stuff they had to put in for the old legendaries. So that's fine. So Michael Bryan comes out on Friday, says we're going to do a new legendary one. We got that coming up in the spring expansion, which I believe is April, or spring update. Going to do a new short bow. But then we're not going to do any more legendary weapons. Not for a while, because they're just too hard and they're taking up too much resources. And we're just going to focus on some other things instead. And this is not going over well.
Wow.
Because as you said, it was promised in Heart of Thorns we're going to have new legendary weapons for all the different weapons. And they even said when they introduced the weapons, like I said, it takes about a month to do it. So we're 4 or 5 months past when the last set of legendaries came out. They're going to get us 1 more. And then they're going to be done for a while because they want to work on other things, want to work on other content.
Now take me through here, though. Like, is the legendary obviously big deal as far as endgame stuff goes and having something to do and something to strive for and status symbol and all that? It's pretty much the same across all games. But development-wise, with Guild Wars 2, the legendaries were, I don't know if they were a ton more in-depth than other legendary quests. To me, there was like a little bit of story and some questing and stuff going on, but they don't strike me as really, really developmentally heavy pieces of content, are they?
Well, what some people are thinking is that there's a lot of different steps to go into. You have to collect this stuff, you have to go do this thing, you have to do this, you have to collect a lot more of this stuff, you have to collect even more of this stuff. Some of it costs a lot of money, and you got to do it a long time. So it is feeling very grindy to a lot of people, myself included. And I think what some people are saying in the thread is they think that they're going to adjust that formula. And of course, they need to adjust that. And if they do that, then they have to take into account the bunch of precursor quests that they did for the previous weapons, for the current ones, for the ones they're going to do later. So that might be what this is. This might be code for we really screwed up how we did this. And we're going to have to kind of go back to the drawing board to redo it all, so we don't want to introduce new stuff now. That might be the case. I wish they could be a little more open about that, a little more honest, because otherwise it just sounds like it's one of a lot of things. They do this a lot. They're like, we're going to do this awesome new thing, and they put out some part of it, and they just abandon it. And it's gone, and it becomes hard, and they just don't come back to it for a long time with fixing dungeons, guild missions, Super Adventure Box, another thing that came out and then was never brought back because whatever. They're working on a World versus World revamp because again they kind of messed that up when they did Heart of Thorns. It's just a mess with them trying to figure out what they need to do and how they have the resources to do it. And it really stinks when they say that we know how long this takes, we know what it takes to do it, and we still can't figure out how to do it.
Yeah, it just kind of reeks of they're understaffed right now, and I hate to put this spin on it, but This almost feels like an NCSoft thing, not an ArenaNet thing. But to be fair, though, ArenaNet itself really doesn't have the greatest track record when it comes to we're going to set this on the back burner and get back
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, and they've got like 300, 400 employees, something like that. So it's not like they're that understaffed. I just think that, and it took them 3 years to put out the expansion. I just think that on some level, they're just not good at figuring out their resources and figuring out what they're capable of doing. And there's the little part of me wants to think that maybe that was more of a Colin Johansson thing, that he was a big dreamer and had a lot of ambition, and maybe didn't always have the notion of what was capable of being actually done. Maybe Mike O'Brien is going to get a more realistic take on things and is going to ramp down the hype a little bit, but maybe actually get stuff done. That's my hopeful thought on this, because he actually says later on. Now this is the thing that they're trying to do, supposedly, is they want to put out more living story content, the regular updates that people do, and I get that because that's something that everybody does. Whereas legendaries are something more of a subset. It's not something everybody does. So it
Yeah,
makes
it's a
sense
super small percentage.
I don't know if it's super small, but I agree that it's not as big as the regular content updates. So that's what they want to focus on. But then later on in a response, he actually says this. It's a direct quote: "Be angry about legendary weapons, sure, but how about the recent drought of content?" Like he's actually saying, yeah, we haven't done much. We haven't put out a whole lot of content, but we're going to fix that now. It's like you're actually saying that because we haven't put out a whole lot of content. Because we've been working on legendary weapons, we haven't done a whole lot of content.
Yeah, almost making that the excuse
Yeah.
for the content drought. What's the general feeling on the forums? You initially, when you and I talked about this behind the scenes, you kind of were back and forth on oh no, this is bad. Well, maybe it's not that. Oh, this is dumb. It was kind of a back and forth, but then you landed on, yeah, you should pretty much be booked on charges for this one. Is that the general feeling on the Guild Wars forums, Reddits, that type of thing?
It's about half and half on the forums. There are a lot of people who are really angry about it. Some of the people who are, going with that long notion of, hey, they need to put up more content for the regular people as opposed to focusing on the missions. But, I mean, I feel the reason we're policing this is because they've been so vocal about what they were going to do, talking about how it would take a month to do it, talking about how it was promised in the expansion. It's a little like what we did with Paladins a while back. Like, that might have been the right move for them, but when the president said 5 months ago, this is how we're going to do it, and then they just completely switched it over. That's the part that makes it police worthy in my mind.
Yeah, the part that convinced me was this was actually a fairly big selling point for your new expansion, and just months after the expansion is out, you're dropping it entirely. If it had been something else, then maybe I would be more angry about it. It's just not content I generally partake in, but I don't like the idea of this was one of the bullet points for features in our expansion that make us say you should buy this. And by the way, we're not going to do it anymore. So NCSoft / ArenaNet / Guild Wars 2, whoever you want to put the blame on directly, we're booking you on charges of taking away our legendaries and just making us epic instead. You could get out of this one. It feels like maybe you could, but you don't really have the best track record for going back to things anyway.
Yeah, we're working on a means to get you out of jail. We'll get to it when we have enough staff for it somewhere down the line.
Jason, until the next free-to-play police, where can everybody find you?
Find me on the Twitter at WinterInformal.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me on Twitter at MagicMan1 or come on over to MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. Let us know how you feel about the missing legendaries, the MIA legendaries in Guild Wars 2 in the comments below. And of course, always let us know something that you'd like us to take a look at on the free-to-play police. Until next time, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.